I am 33 years old, born and raised in Boston. Growing up, I always felt responsible for my younger brother, shielding him from trouble and covering his mistakes. Little did I know this pattern would continue into adulthood, leading to the ultimate betrayal. My brother slept with my wife and got her pregnant. My parents were so disgusted they disowned him completely and left me their entire fortune worth $2 million. Now he has shown up at my door, desperate for financial help after losing everything. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear how I handled someone who stabbed me in the back twice and still expected my help. I grew up in a comfortable, upper-middle-class neighborhood in Boston. My parents both worked in healthcare, my father as a surgeon and my mother as a hospital administrator. They provided us with a stable home-good education and plenty of opportunities. When I was 7, my brother Jason was born. From day one, he was the golden child, showered with attention and affection that sometimes made me feel invisible. Despite the age gap and occasional jealousy, I took my role as big brother seriously. When Jason started elementary school, I was already in middle school. I remember walking him to his classroom every morning before heading to my own building. Kids would sometimes pick on him because he was small for his age, and I would step in to defend him. I once got detention for pushing a 6th grader who had stolen Jason's lunch money. My parents scolded me for fighting, but secretly I was proud to protect my little brother. As we got older, I noticed troubling patterns in Jason's behavior. When I was 16, and he was 9, things from my room began disappearing. A watch my grandfather had given me vanished along with cash from my wallet and several video games. When I confronted Jason, he would cry and blame his friends or claim he had no idea what happened. My parents almost always believed him. By the time Jason reached his teens, his manipulation had become more sophisticated. During my senior year of high school, I worked hard on a science project that won district recognition. When my parents hosted a celebration dinner, Jason somehow managed to steer the conversation to how he had helped me with the idea and research. He had contributed nothing but smiled innocently as he accepted praise from our extended family. What hurt most was how effectively Jason turned my parents against me. If I called him out on his lies, he would wait until we were alone with our parents and twist my words, making me sound jealous and mean. My mother would pull me aside with concerned looks. "Have you considered therapy for your jealousy issues, Harrison? Why can't you be supportive of your brother?" These conversations left me feeling gaslit and frustrated. College became my escape. I attended Boston University, close enough to visit but far enough to breathe. During those 4 years, Jason's behavior escalated. When I came home for holidays, I would find my bedroom had been used, things rearranged or missing. Once I discovered he had been reading my journals and sharing embarrassing stories with his friends. One summer break, I caught him telling our neighbor, Mrs. Phillips, that I had been kicked out of college for drinking, which was completely untrue. I confronted him later, and instead of denying it, he laughed. "You are so uptight, Harrison. Nobody cares about your perfect reputation." I had never felt so disconnected from my own brother. The final straw came when $500 disappeared from our father's wallet. Jason immediately suggested I had taken it to cover a gambling debt, another complete fabrication. Even though no evidence pointed to me, my parents were cold and suspicious for weeks. I later found receipts for expensive sneakers in Jason's trash can dated just after the money went missing. But by then, my parents had moved on and did not want to hear about it. After graduating with honors in finance, I took a job that required extensive travel. I told myself it was for career advancement, but truthfully, I was running from the toxicity at home. I tried maintaining a relationship with Jason through occasional texts and holiday visits, but each interaction left me drained and hurt. My parents remained blind to his manipulations. Dad would call me with pride in his voice about Jason making honor roll, not knowing he had cheated on exams. Mom would send photos of family outings I had not been invited to. Each time I tried to express concern about Jason's behavior, they accused me of being competitive and unable to celebrate his success. By the time I turned 25, I had limited my family contact to major holidays and brief phone calls. I told myself it was self-preservation, but deep down I felt like a failure for not being able to fix my relationship with my brother or make my parents understand who he truly was. At 27, my career in financial consulting was taking off. I had developed a reputation for helping struggling businesses turn around their finances, which led to a senior position at a respected firm. During a conference in Chicago, I met Allison, a brilliant marketing executive with a quick wit and infectious laugh that could light up any room. We bonded over terrible hotel coffee and shared career frustrations. After dating long distance for 6 months, Allison relocated to Boston. I was happier than I had ever been. We married a year later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. My parents seemed genuinely pleased, and even Jason behaved himself at the wedding. When he gave his toast as my reluctant best man, he actually said some nice things that made me hope our relationship might improve. That hope was short-lived. The first time Jason and Allison spent significant time together was during a 4th of July barbecue at my parents' house. I noticed how Jason positioned himself next to Allison at every opportunity, touching her arm when he laughed, refilling her drink before she asked. When I mentioned it later, Allison said I was overreacting. "He is just being friendly. Not everyone has your trust issues, Harrison." That comment stung, especially since I had shared with Allison the difficult history with my brother. I tried to dismiss my concerns, not wanting to seem paranoid or controlling. This would prove to be a catastrophic mistake. Over the next year, Jason inserted himself into our lives with increasing frequency. He would call Allison directly to discuss family matters instead of contacting me. He began telling her exaggerated or completely false stories about my past. According to Jason, I had been a bully in school, had cheated on previous girlfriends, and had abandoned family responsibilities while pursuing my career. None of this was true, but I could tell some of these lies were taking root in Allison's mind. Jason created situations to be alone with my wife under the guise of helping with home projects when I was traveling for work. He volunteered to help her pick furniture for our new home office tasks that stretched mysteriously into all-day excursions. When I expressed discomfort with these arrangements, Allison accused me of being controlling. "Why are you so weird about your brother spending time with me? Do you not trust me?" My career continued advancing despite the stress at home. I had developed a proprietary method for identifying inefficiencies in corporate structures that gained significant attention. Several colleagues and I decided to branch out and start our own consulting firm. The risk paid off, and within 18 months, we had a roster of impressive clients and growing profits. While my professional life flourished, Jason floundered. He dropped out of college after changing his major 4 times. He attempted various business ventures, from selling nutritional supplements to investing in a friend's restaurant, all ending in failure. Each time he would go crying to our parents, who continued supporting him financially while criticizing my lack of assistance. What infuriated me most was hearing from mutual acquaintances how Jason spoke about me behind my back. According to him, I had succeeded through cutthroat tactics and stepping on others, when the reality was I had built my business through diligence and ethical practice. He portrayed himself as the creative, free-spirited brother oppressed by his money-obsessed sibling. At home, I noticed Allison becoming increasingly distant. She started working late, being vague about her whereabouts, and showing less interest in our relationship. I attributed this to the natural evolution of a marriage and the stress of our demanding careers. I tried planning weekend getaways and date nights to reconnect, but she often found excuses to reschedule or cut them short. In March, I had a week-long business trip to London scheduled. The day before my departure, a key client canceled, shortening my trip by 3 days. Rather than telling Allison immediately, I decided to surprise her by coming home early, planning a romantic evening to rekindle our connection. I arrived home on a Wednesday afternoon, excited to see my wife. The house was unusually quiet when I entered, but I heard muffled sounds coming from upstairs. As I climbed the stairs, a sickening realization began forming in my stomach. The sounds became clearer, unmistakable. I pushed open our bedroom door to find Jason and Allison in our bed, so engrossed in each other they did not notice me until I spoke. "What the hell is this?" My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, strained and hollow. "They sprung apart, Allison. pulling the sheet up to cover herself eyes wide with shock. Jason, however, had the audacity to smirk, as if he had been waiting for this moment of triumph. "Harrison, you are supposed to be in London." Allison stammered, her face pale. Obviously, I replied, my whole body shaking with rage and disbelief. "How long has this been going on?" "Does it matter?" Jason asked with a casual shrug, reaching for his pants as if we were discussing something trivial. He seemed almost pleased to be caught like this moment of causing me. Pain was what he had been working toward. I lunged at him, grabbing him by the throat and slamming him against the wall. All the years of betrayal and manipulation exploded in a moment of blind fury. Allison screamed, pulling at my arm, begging me to stop. Something in her panic broke through my rage, and I released Jason, who slid to the floor coughing. "Get out of my house," I said, my voice deadly calm. "Both of you. Now." While Jason dressed with irritating casualness, Allison began sobbing, apologizing, begging for a chance to explain. When they had gone, I sat on the edge of the bed, our bed, feeling like I had been hollowed out from the inside. The room still smelled like their betrayal. I gathered some essentials and checked into a hotel, unable to spend another minute in that house. That night, Allison called 47 times. I finally answered around 3 in the morning, emotionally exhausted but needing answers. "It has been going on for 6 months," she confessed through tears. "I never meant for it to happen. Jason was there when you were traveling so much for work. He listened to me, made me feel special." Every word felt like a knife. "I have built my entire career to give us a good life," I said. "And you thank me by sleeping with the one person who has tried to destroy me since childhood." "There is something else," she whispered. "I am pregnant. I thought it was yours, but now with the timing, I am not sure." The next weeks passed in a blur of lawyers' paternity tests and numbing pain. The test confirmed what I already suspected: the baby was Jason's. When I called my parents to break the news, they refused to believe me, accusing me of making up lies about Jason out of jealousy. Apparently, Jason and Allison had already contacted them, painting me as abusive and unstable, claiming they had fallen in love innocently and were afraid of my reaction. It took providing actual evidence, text messages between them planning their encounters, and security camera footage from our home, showing Jason entering on days I traveled, before my parents accepted the truth. My mother collapsed when she saw the undeniable proof, and my father, a man I had rarely seen, emotional, wept openly. They confronted Jason together, giving him a chance to explain or show remorse. Instead, he revealed the true depth of his character. According to my mother, he laughed and said Harrison has had everything handed to him his whole life. He deserves to lose something for once. When my father asked about the family he was destroying, Jason shrugged and said, "You have always loved him more anyway." That conversation changed everything. My parents, who had enabled Jason his entire life, finally saw him clearly. They told him to leave their house and not return until he had made significant changes and shown genuine remorse. Jason responded by demanding his inheritance early, saying he needed it for his new family. My father, voice shaking with anger, informed Jason that they were changing their will. Everything would go to me. Jason laughed, not believing they would follow through, but within a week, their lawyer had drawn up new documents, leaving their entire estate, approximately $2 million, in assets, investments, and their home, to me alone. The divorce proceedings were mercifully straightforward. Allison did not contest anything, perhaps out of guilt. I gave her more than my lawyer advised, wanting only to be free of the situation. Jason and Allison moved in together, but according to mutual friends, their relationship was already strained. The fantasy was apparently less appealing than the thrill of betrayal. The stress of everything took a heavy toll on my parents' health. My father, who had already been managing high blood pressure, suffered a minor stroke 3 months after the confrontation. My mother developed anxiety so severe she could barely leave the house. I moved them into my new apartment, a sterile place I had rented without emotional attachment, and cared for them as best I could while running my business. Dad passed away in his sleep 4 months later. The doctors said it was heart failure, but I believe it was heartbreak. Mom followed just 8 weeks after that, having lost the will to fight without her husband of 42 years. Jason did not attend either funeral, sending only a generic flower arrangement to my mother's service. As the sole inheritor, I received their house investments and remaining assets. The final amount was just over $2 million as they had specified. Though the inheritance represented financial security, I would have traded every penny to have my parents back to have a normal family unmarked by betrayal. The loss of my parents so close together sent me into a dark period of grief and isolation. I withdrew from social activities and focused obsessively on work, pulling 80-hour weeks that left me too exhausted to think about everything I had lost. This strategy worked temporarily, but was clearly unsustainable. When I found myself sitting alone in my car, sobbing after a client meeting, I finally accepted I needed professional help. My therapist, Dr. Russell, helped me understand that my relationship with Jason had been toxic from the beginning. I was not responsible for his actions or choices. I had been conditioned since childhood to protect and forgive him, creating a pattern that allowed his behavior to escalate to unimaginable betrayal. The most difficult part of therapy was addressing my anger. I had fantasies of revenge that frightened me with their intensity. Dr. Russell guided me to express these feelings safely while working toward setting them aside, not for Jason's benefit but for my own healing. During this process, I reconnected with James and Tyler, friends I had neglected during my marriage. They invited me to basketball games, hiking trips, and casual dinners where we talked about everything and nothing. Their steady, uncomplicated friendship became a foundation I could rebuild upon. 6 months after my mother's passing, I made 2 significant decisions. First, I sold my parents' house, unable to face the memories it contained. Second, I established the Stevens Family Foundation, using half the inheritance to fund educational opportunities for disadvantaged youth. The foundation work became deeply fulfilling, allowing me to create something positive from my family tragedy. 18 months after the divorce was finalized, my doorbell rang on a Sunday morning. I opened it to find Jason standing there, almost unrecognizable. He had lost considerable weight. His clothes were worn, and his eyes had lost the confident gleam I had always associated with him. "I need help, Harrison," he said without preamble. "Allison left me, took the baby, and moved to her parents in Seattle. I lost my job 3 months ago. The landlord is evicting me tomorrow. I have nowhere else to go." I stood silently, studying the broken man before me. Part of me, the hurt child who had been overshadowed and betrayed repeatedly, wanted to slam the door in his face. Another part, perhaps the one nurtured by therapy and new friendships, felt an unexpected pang of pity. "Why should I help you?" I finally asked. Jason looked down. "Because you are my brother. Because you have always been the better person. Because I have nothing and no one else." I invited him in but maintained physical and emotional distance as we sat in my living room. Jason explained that his relationship with Allison had disintegrated shortly after the baby was born. The stress of parenthood, financial struggles, and the guilt of how their relationship began created constant conflict. Allison had left 6 months ago, allowing Jason only limited supervised visits with their daughter Lily. Jason had lost his sales job due to downsizing. Without income, he had depleted his savings and maxed out credit cards. He had tried contacting former friends for help, but his reputation for manipulation had left him isolated. I was truly his last resort. As he spoke, I felt the weight of my decision. Helping Jason could mean inviting more pain into my life. Refusing would be understandable given our history, but could I live with that choice? "I am not giving you money," I said finally, "but I will offer you a place to stay temporarily with strict conditions. You will get therapy. You will find a job within 30 days. You will contribute to household expenses. One lie, one manipulation, and you are out with no further chances." Jason agreed, appearing genuinely grateful. Over the next months, I maintained careful boundaries while observing his efforts. To my surprise, he adhered to every condition, securing work at a local retailer and attending weekly counseling sessions. He made no excuses for his past behavior, and asked for nothing beyond what we had agreed upon. Slowly, cautiously, we began rebuilding some semblance of a relationship. Not the blind trust of brotherhood, but something more measured and realistic. I would never forget what happened, but I found that forgiveness offered with clear boundaries freed me more than it benefited Jason. Through this process, I learned that forgiveness does not mean allowing people to hurt you repeatedly. It means releasing the burden of hatred while protecting yourself from future harm. I established a relationship with my niece Lily, now 3 years old, and innocent of her parents' mistakes. Being present in her life became an unexpected joy. 2 years after Jason appeared at my door, I met Megan at a foundation fundraiser. Smart, kind, and direct, she had no patience for games or manipulation. When I eventually shared my full history, she neither pitied me nor minimized my experience. Her respect for my boundaries and direct communication style helped restore my faith in relationships. The journey from betrayal to some measure of peace was neither quick nor easy. I still have moments of anger and grief for what was lost. But I have built a life with meaning, surrounded by people who value honesty and mutual respect. I broke the cycle of toxicity that had defined my family for decades. If you are struggling with betrayal or difficult family relationships, remember that setting boundaries is not selfish. It is necessary for healing. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation or forgetting. It is a gift you give yourself, releasing the power others have over your happiness. Have you ever had to forgive someone who deeply hurt you? How did you balance compassion with self-protection? Share your experience in the comments, and if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more. Stories of overcoming life's most painful challenges. Thank you for listening to my journey. I hope it brings some comfort to know that even after the deepest betrayals, healing and happiness remain possible.